Good morning, everyone. Fabulous to see you all. I'm loving that we have so many people down the front because I am going to need a lot of help. What's that, Will? I did enjoy my birthday. Thank you so much. Another year older and wiser, or something. Great. Well, if you don't know me, my name's Sara, and I'm part of the ministry team here at St. John's. And in our all-age services, for this academic year, we are thinking about what is God like? What is God like? So in September, Ruth, she helped us to think about how we know what God is like. How do we know? Maybe we read the Bible, maybe we think about what Jesus was like. And in October, Louise talked to us about God being our provider. And today, we are going to be thinking about the fact that God is holy. God is holy. Now, I've got a lot of props this morning, so you'll have to bear with me while I come to my stash, backwards and forwards, and I'm going to need a lot of help. So, God is holy. Now, I've got some things here that are holy. This is quite holy. This is a very holy thing. Yeah? I've got something else. Wait a minute. I've got some more holy things in my bag. Very, very holy things. I've got some very holy cheese. It's really, really holy cheese, isn't it? Super, super holy. I've also got these socks are really, really holy. Oh my goodness, they are so holy. So holy. Look, there's even another one there. They could be gloves. My socks are so holy. Now, do we think that this is the kind of holy that God is? No? Do you think not? You think not? Okay. I agree. I don't think so either. But holiness, God is holy. It's quite a big idea, isn't it? It's quite a big concept for us to think about and get our heads around. But I'm going to pop up a few words in a minute that I think God is holy might mean. But I want you to come at me with some ideas. Any words that come to mind when you think holy? Grown-ups, you can join in. You can shout them out. God is holy. What is being holy? Dying on the cross for us. Absolutely. Anyone else got an idea? Important. Yeah, important. Precious. Any other ideas? What does being holy mean? Set apart. Oh, I like that one. Good job. Very good, very good. Any grown-up ideas? Pure. Sacred. Love it. What was that? Adorable. I like that one. Sacred again. Oh, amazing. Right, let's pop up my next slide. So I've got 3 words that I think help us think about it. Pure, clean, and perfect. Is anyone here perfect? Put your hand up if you think you're perfect. Oh, we've got one at the back, we've got one at the back, we've got one at the front. I don't know. Because really, if we think about it, the truth is none of us are perfect, are we? None of us are. Absolutely none of us. We all make mistakes. Sometimes we choose to do the wrong thing when we should do the right thing. Sometimes we do or we say things that we might regret. We can all be selfish and we can all be unkind. But God is not like that. He is pure and clean and perfect. He is holy in every way. That's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing. But sometimes if we think about that too much, I don't know, maybe it might make us feel a little bit small or a little bit unworthy, maybe, I don't know. Maybe even a little bit sad or scared, because we might think about all the amazing ways that God is holy, and that might remind us of all the ways that we are not holy and all the mistakes that we make, and sometimes we do things that maybe aren't right. And that is called sin. We talk about that word quite a lot in church, don't we? And it's our sin that makes us unholy and not like God. Now, there's another short passage in the Bible. I had so many Bible readings this morning, I didn't know which ones to choose. There were so many good ones. But there's another passage in the Bible that I want us all to read together. So this is our third Bible reading. Let's pop it up, and we're going to say it all together after three. 1, 2, 3. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. And this verse is from the book of Isaiah. And now Isaiah was a prophet, and he was one of the few people who kind of got to see what God's holiness really was like, and he saw it in a vision. And these words were words that some angels said when they were describing God. And they said that he was holy, holy, holy is the Lord Almighty. The whole earth is full of his glory. Now, back in those days, long, long time ago, if you said something once, it was true. If you said it twice, it was really true. But if you said it 3 times, that was special. That meant that it was really, 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 really true. It was so true that you might have had a little bit of a sit down, might have made your head hurt a bit, and you had to have a bit of a think about what that really might have meant. Holy, holy, holy. God is so holy. He is special. He's different from us. And maybe even a little bit dangerous because he's so holy. And he is holy, and we're not holy. We're a little bit sinful. We do things wrong sometimes. And back in the Bible times, in the Old Testament, it was not safe for a sinful person like us, like you or me, to go anywhere near God, who is so holy, holy, holy. And so, God's people, back in Jerusalem, they built a temple. They built a temple, and this was kind of their way of giving God somewhere to live, so that their presence was amongst them. So the temple was where God lived. It's where his presence was. And there was a very, very special room right in the middle of the temple, and it was called the Holy of Holies. The Holy of Holies, or the most holy place, the most holy place there was anywhere in the world. And this was where God lived. This was where God's presence was. But most of the time, no one was allowed in there. Absolutely no one. And that was because God's presence was so holy, 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 that it was dangerous. And if anyone went into the Holy of Holies and they were not prepared, and because they were not perfect and they were not holy, they would die. That's a bit gruesome, isn't it? It's a bit gruesome. Because they weren't perfect, they couldn't be in God's presence. Can you imagine that? That there was a place where you might just walk into and So, we heard in the Bible passages that we had read some descriptions about the temple, yeah? That told us in quite a lot of detail what the temple in Jerusalem was like and what the Holy of Holies was like. So, to help us get a really good idea of what that was all about and what it might have looked like, this morning we are going to recreate the temple right here in church. All right, are you ready? Are you up for it? Are you going to help me? Because I'm going to need lots of help. All right, so let's check the Bible passage again. So it started off with some measurements, right? It said that the temple, so originally it would have been in cubits. You might remember cubits from like when Noah built the ark. His measurements were in cubits, but our translation took us into feet. So it said it was 90 feet long, 30 feet wide, and 30 feet high. Now, if we translate that into meters, because, I'm a metric kind of gal, it's about just over 27 meters long. And I was trying to think, how long, Graham, do you know how long our church is here? 24, 25 meters. Okay, so a little bit longer than our church, yeah? So imagine a space just a little bit longer than what we're in. And then 30 feet, that's just about 10 meters. Do you know how wide our church is? 6 meters. Okay, so a little bit narrower. So maybe imagine maybe from pillar to pillar, a little bit narrower, but a little bit longer, all right? That's the sort of shape that we're in. All right. Now, it said that the inside was covered in gold. Covered in gold. All right. Here we go. I hope you're ready. Covered in gold. I'm going to need some helpers. All right. Who's coming up to help me? Come on then, up you come. Up you come. Right, can you stand over here and hold the gold up? It's very precious gold. Very precious. Who else? Who's coming up? Come on, Otis. And come up here. You come up here. You hold some gold on this side. There we go. We got any more? Jonathan. Do you want to come over to this side? There you go. Have some gold to hold up. One more. I need one more. Come on. Come on. Go on then. Come on up. Got a hand down there. Come on. You come over here. We're going to have some more gold over here. There you go. You hold that one. Fabulous. So it was covered in gold. So, and it said that the gold was covered in designs of palm trees and chains and creatures with wings. All right, I'm going to need these again in a minute. So, we've got all of those things. We've got some chains. Got some chains. I'm going to pop those down. There's some chains, some gold chains. Gold chains. Look, we've got gold palm trees. How are we going to do this? Right. All right, there we go. It's carved with some palm trees. There we go. Got one there, right, there we go. There's a couple more. Can you want to stick some palm, oh no! Palm trees. Now, creatures with wings, that's quite tricky, isn't it? If you look up on our ceiling, there's some creatures with wings up there. Look, you can see there's a lion on that side, and there's a kind of, it looks a bit like a bull, and there's also some angels. And look, is that a bull with wings? I think it might be. Got a bull with wings, and we've got a lion. It's supposed to be a lion. Not great, right? Do you want to stick? It looks a bit like, yeah. Do you want to? So you can stick those on our gold walls. All right, I'm going to need, oh, there's some more chains. I'm going to save those for later. So we've got our gold walls, and we've got our carvings of creatures with wings and palm trees, and we've got our chains. Now, it said that there was gems in the temple for beauty. All right. So I'm going to get a table, and we're going to bring out some beautiful things to go in our temple. Some beautiful things to go in our temple. I've got some gold. Okay. All right. I raided the safe. Got some beautiful gold things. I've got some gems. I stole these from my children. Look, right, look. Wow, beautiful gems we've got. For beauty, it said. They were for beauty. Make the temple beautiful. Lots of nice sparkly things. All right, so we've got the gems. What else do we need? Got some more gold things just to make it look pretty. You can let people have a look at some gold things. Someone might want to wear a crown, you never know. All right, so our temple's coming together. So this was kind of the outer bits of the temple. And then as you went into the middle, you got to the most holy place. Now it tells us that the most holy place was covered in 46,000 pounds of gold. Has anyone got that much gold? No? We don't have that much gold? Okay, well, we'll have to do with my gold wrapping paper then. So, I need a couple more volunteers to hold up some gold. We're going to make the inner Holy of Holies over here. Yeah? Any more people to come and hold some gold? Come on then. One more. Otherwise, I'll pick you. Come on then. Up you come. Okay, so you're going to be on this side. That's it. You hold it up because this is going to be our inner. You can face me so you're kind of we're making the pathway. That's it. Awesome. Hold that up. Beautiful. All right. Now, it said there was inside the Holy of Holies, we've got two creatures with wings. Creatures with wings. All right. So I'm going to need a couple of volunteers. Come on then. Caleb, come on. All right. Come on. Right, you stand there.
This is my style.
All right.
Wow.
Pop them on. There we go. Now, it says that the wings were like 7 foot wide on either side, and they reached the whole width. Now, I didn't have any wings that big, sadly. Are you all right there? No. It's tricky, isn't it? No, see, what you do is, right, put one arm, put one arm in there, like that. I think you're too big. It's not going to work. We'll just do that. There we are. That'll do. He's got wonky wings. All right, so there we've got our creatures with wings, right? You need to stand like, wide. That's it. Beautiful, beautiful. So this is our creatures with wings. They were actually made out of hot liquid gold, it said. Hot liquid gold, it said. So imagine, you have to use your imagination a little bit. So it's all coming together. Now, there are other places in the Bible that gives us a bit more detail about what else was in the Holy of Holies, all right? So wait there. I'm coming back. So it said that in the Holy of Holies, they kept the Ark of the Covenant. Now, the Ark of the Covenant, this is my version, it would have been much bigger than this. The Ark of the Covenant was a very, very special kind of box. It was a little bit like a chest, and it was made of wood, but it was also covered in gold. Now, this special chest covered in gold, it was where the presence of God lived before the temple was built. And when God's people were wandering around the wilderness for 40 years, after God rescued them from slavery in Egypt, they carried God's presence with them, and it was in the Ark of the Covenant. All right, and it was really, really, really special. And inside it, over that 40 years, they started to keep some things in it that reminded them of God, of everything that God had done for them, of how he'd provided for them, and of how holy he was. So inside it, they kept, what do you think these are? The 10 Commandments. So remember, Moses went up the mountain and he came back with the 10 Commandments. And they were written on some stone, or cardboard, and they kept those in the Ark of the Covenant. Now, they also had some of this. They also had some popcorn, yeah. Manna. Now, if you were here last month, you might have remembered Louise spoke to us all about how God provided for the children of Israel when they were in the desert with manna. And God said to them, I want you to keep some to help you remember all the things that I've done for you and to remember how I provided for you when you were in the desert. And so they kept some of the manna in the Ark of the Covenant. And I'm not going to go into the next one in detail, but there also was a rod that belonged to Aaron. Aaron was Moses' brother, and he was a great high priest. And so he had a special rod, and it did all sorts of other things. But that's another story for another time. So they kept all of this in the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant was in the Holy of Holies, in between the creatures with wings, so they could just watch over it and protect it, all right? So, we're nearly there, we're nearly there. All of this was in the Holy of Holies, the most holy place. Now, obviously, we talked about how nobody was allowed in the Holy of Holies most of the time because it was a bit dangerous. So what they did was they put up a huge curtain to block the entrance, all right, so that people would not go in. They would remember not to go in because it was a bit dangerous. I'm going to need a couple of really tall volunteers. Tall volunteers. Andrew Large. Oh, we've got so many people. You can help as well. You can help. Do you want to come, Oliver? All right, go on. All right, come on up. Right. If you come and stand just in front here of the Ark of the Covenant, it's all a bit of a squish up here now. So much stuff on the stage. All right, don't need that anymore. Right, the gold might have to move back a little bit, and the creatures might have to move back a little bit. Take the Ark of the Covenant with you. There we go, right. Okay, so you hold that corner, and you hold that corner. Now, hold it up as high. Actually, let's turn it around. Swap sides. Turn it around. Oh no, it's falling apart. Yeah, you're hidden now because you're inside the Holy of Holies. Right. Awesome. All right, there we go. So, here's our curtain. Said, now imagine it was like 10 times as big, and it went all the way up to the ceiling, 10 meters high, 10 meters wide, to block the door to the Holy of Holies. And it said it was purple and red and blue. I did my best. Oh, I did my best. Purple, red, and blue. We were almost there. And it said it also had creatures with wings on it. I don't think I'm going to stick them on. It's not going to work, I can tell. So anyway, you can imagine, creatures with wings on the big curtain. And so, imagine that we're all in the temple, right? You guys are all in the outer courts of the temple. And then we come in to the inner courts, and then right in to the Holy of Holies. So it's all covered in gold, and we've got all the things that we needed, and then we've got our curtain, and inside is the Holy of Holies. Now, back in the Old Testament, God said to his people that they have to try and be holy like God is holy. And so, God gave his people a really long list of rules and regulations and rituals that they had to complete in order to come to the temple to worship. Some of them were a bit weird and a little bit strange. And it tells us all about them in the Old Testament of the Bible. So there were certain foods that they were not allowed to eat, and there were certain types of clothes that they weren't allowed to wear, and you certainly weren't allowed to have any diseases. And sometimes, even if you had touched someone that had a disease, that would make you not able to go either. So imagine the diseased person, and you touch them, they would be unclean, but then you would also be unclean, and you wouldn't be allowed to come to the temple. So the children of Israel, they had to do all these things, make sure they kept themselves as pure and clean as they could, to be allowed to come to the temple to worship. And when they came to the temple, because obviously they didn't want to die in God's presence, so God said what they could do was they could bring an animal to sacrifice, all right? It's a bit gruesome, isn't it, back then? It's pretty grim. I'm quite glad that we don't live back then. So they would bring an animal. It might be their best lamb or their goat or a chicken or a cow, and they would offer it to God as a way of saying sorry for their sins. And then they could go and worship in God's presence. All right, coming back. Oh, I know. It's all right. No animals will be harmed. Look, this goat knows what's coming. All right, so I need some volunteers to bring the animals. Come on, Hannah. I know it's hers. This is what Hannah gave me for my birthday. A screaming goat. Right, you have the goats. Someone else for the sheep? Do you want to hold a sheep for me? Anyone else want to hold a sheep? You want to hold a sheep? You got to come with me, though. You can't sit back down. Do you want to hold both sheep? All right, you go and stand up the aisle, all right? And I'll tell you what to do in a sec. All right, so, didn't think this would be quite so tiring. So they brought their animals to give to God so that they could come and worship him. So the people would bring their animals, so they can bring them up to here, bring them up to the front. That's it, they would bring them. But normal people weren't allowed to come inside. Yeah? Only the priests were allowed to come inside. Have we got any priests? Do we have any priests? All right, come on then, priests. Priests, come. So priests, so you need to give your animals to the priests. All right, awesome. Give your animals to the priests, and then they're allowed to come up here. There's not much room, but you can come up here. See if you can squeeze through all the gold. Ah! Oh no, he knows what's coming. So the priests were allowed in here, but then the Holy of Holies, that's through the curtain, right? I hope your arms are okay. Only the great high priest was allowed to go into the Holy of Holies, and he was only allowed to do that on one day of the year. One day of the year, and that day was called Yom Kippur, and it was the Day of Atonement, and it was the day where all God's people, they fasted, so they ate no food for the whole day, and they prayed, and that was to say sorry for their sins, and so that God could make them pure. And on that day, the great high priest, who wants to be the great high priest? Rachel wants to be the great. She's got a nice jacket on for it, I think. So, Rachel, you need to take the animals into the Holy of Holies. And she won't die because she's got the animals, all right? So you have to go around this way. All right, off she goes. Off she goes. She's going in. We don't need to see what she's going to do in there. So that's the great high priest, and she's gone into the Holy of Holies 1 day per year to, okay. That was the goat, it's gone. All right, you guys can sit down. Oh my gosh. All right, so amazing. So that's what it was like a long, long, long time ago, back in the day, in the Old Testament. It's amazing. But you'll be pleased to know that it all changed. Everything changed when Jesus came. Thanks, guys, you're doing so well. I promise you I'm almost done and you can sit down. But don't they look amazing? So it all changed when Jesus came, because Jesus is the only human being to have lived who was completely perfect. He was completely perfect. Oh, round of applause. Okay, because Jesus is holy, because God is holy, because Jesus is God. Now, we heard in the other passage of the Bible that Hannah read about what happened at that exact moment when Jesus died on the cross. Can anyone remember? Can anyone remember what it said? Can you remember? Pardon? The curtain was ripped. That's right. So now we know what he's talking about, yeah? So we've got that curtain here, and we know what's inside. That's where God's presence is. That's where God lived. And when Jesus died, the curtain was ripped. It said, then Jesus cried out in a loud voice and died. When Jesus died, the curtain in the temple split into 2 pieces. The tear, no, not yet. Not yet. I will give you the cue. Spoiling it. The tear started at the top and it tore all the way to the bottom. Now, just again, imagine it was all the way up to the ceiling. So this couldn't have been done by any human being because nobody could get up there. It had to have been God's power and God's holiness that ripped the curtain. Now, we're going to recreate this moment now. Okay, not yet. So it also said that everything went dark. Everything went dark, and there was an earthquake. And then Jesus died, and the curtain ripped. Whoa! Wow. Whew. Stay there for a sec. I'm nearly done. So the curtain ripped. What do you think that might have meant? So when Jesus died, the curtain was gone. You can see, so something really, really, really special happened when Jesus died. Jesus' death was the final sacrifice that was needed. So nobody else needed to come and bring their animals like the great high priest did and like all the people did. No one had to do that anymore because Jesus' death was the final sacrifice. Jesus' death took our sins away and made us clean and holy, which means that we can all go in to the Holy of Holies now and we won't die. We can get in to be where God lives and to be in God's presence, and we won't die. We'll be safe because Jesus did the final sacrifice. There's no more curtain now to stop us from being with God. And it also meant, round of applause, absolutely, woo! And it also meant that instead of God's presence being just in one place, the curtain was open and God's presence could go out into the whole of the world, and God's presence could reach every corner of the world. And he could be with all of us. The curtain was torn and everyone could come near to God and be in his presence and worship him. And in fact, if we all trust in Jesus, not only will we not die when we go in God's presence, because Jesus' death has made us holy, if we trust in him, we can live forever. Because Jesus didn't stay dead, did he? No, he didn't stay dead. He rose from the dead, which meant that no more sacrifices ever had to be made. He conquered death. And then we can all have the opportunity to be in the presence of God because of Jesus. Even though none of us are perfect still, we still make mistakes all the time, but we know that God will forgive us when we say sorry. And we know that he loves us and he wants to be our friend. And Jesus also said, be holy as I am holy. And the best way for us to do that is for us to try and be like Jesus. So, and if you remember back in the day, remember they had all these rituals and all this list of things that God's people had to do to come to the temple and be in God's presence. You had to be pure and clean, and you couldn't touch anything that was not pure and clean. Otherwise, you would become impure. But what Jesus did So imagine Jesus went out into the world and he touched all sorts of things that weren't clean. He touched people with diseases, like people with leprosy. He touched people who were blind. He touched people who were bleeding. He even touched people who were dead. And instead of Jesus becoming unclean, Jesus made those people clean and he healed them. He healed them. So Jesus gives his holiness over to us and we can all be healed. So God is holy, 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 holy. He is perfect and pure and clean. And Jesus is the embodiment of God's holiness here on earth. And when he died, the curtain was torn and God's holiness and his presence could be everywhere and available to everyone. And we, as followers of Jesus, we become part of Jesus' body, don't we? We said part of the body of Christ. So we are also God's holiness here on earth. We're God's hands and God's feet here on earth, and we can pass God's love around to everyone we meet as we try and become more and more holy like Jesus. And we can freely and safely come into God's presence like we do in church and worship him and give thanks to God for everything that he's done for us. Amen.